Hello everyone, Momo here again. Today I wanted to record a quick video on my thoughts on current Devil Jin. I have now reached Fujin with this character as the first Devil Jin player in the world, and I think I've played him enough to somewhat have a verdict on him now. Before I start off though, I want to mention that I will soon start working on a guide for him, and I will flesh that guide out as much as possible in order to make it as beginner friendly as possible. However, I will have to first finish my exams before doing that, and it will take some time, so I need you guys to be patient. But yeah, that's the current status on the guide. Um, okay, so let me first explain Devil Jin's archetype. A lot of you probably already noticed. Devil Jin is part of the Mishima archetype with an electric, a hell sweep, 1-1-2, you know, the classic Mishima stuff. And because he's a Mishima, he has a very high skill ceiling and a high execution barrier. What this means is that getting into Devil Jin not only means having to learn the game, but also having to learn a lot about the character and his execution. And execution can be, you know, combos, or movement, or, you know, in general, just executing your game plan is very difficult with Devil Jin. And even more so in Tekken 8 because there's much more to him now. You need very strong fundamentals to make him work, and even more defensive information as of Tekken 8. I will get into why later, but Devil Jin has always been a more defensive character. You can make this character work in a lot of different ways, but the way I played him in Tekken 7, he was the most effective when played as a more defensive character, because he does have trouble setting up his offense sometime, and you know, he doesn't have that easy mode offense that a few characters have in Tekken 8. So, let me first get into his strengths in this game, and oh boy does he have a lot of those. Devil Jin has very strong space control in this game. Up forward 1, you know, 4-4-4, this move has a lot of range. Electric, electric, still a very strong move, probably the best launcher in the game. And in heat, all of this becomes even stronger. Like in heat he has a 4-3 plus 4, 1 plus 2, which is pretty much safe. It's minus 15 on block, but it has so much pushback. It's pretty much a safe 47 damage power mid that you can just throw out. And the most infamous heat smash in the game. This is pretty much homing, and it hits from so far away. I think even here it would still hit. So Devil Jin is a spacing monster in this game. And to add to that, he also has insanely explosive mix-ups. With the launching sweep that does 70 damage if you pull off the combo correctly. If you use heat, that is. If you opt to not use heat, you can just go for the while standing 1-1 route, which is still like 53 damage. I have counted on right now, so the damage is a bit less, but still, you get my point. He has some of the strongest slows in the game, like the strongest health sweep in the game for sure, and he also has CD4-4, which ignores recoverable health. So this is a 38 damage low that, you know, you can't recover the damage from, which is insane, trust me. This is easily one of the strongest lows in the game. He also has somewhat strong punishment from standing, back to free got buff to 14 frames, which is very useful. There are a lot of minus 14 moves in this game, from what I've experienced. And, you know, a very high range 12 frame punish in back 1-2, and this 1-1-2, which is a bit different now. I explained the Oki on 1-1-2 in a different video. Check my channel out to find that one. And even for pushback moves, Devil Jin has something. He has up 4P plus 4 against, for example, Death Fist and all that stuff. So, you know, his punishment is kinda good, and also can't cancel for 2 frames. And you've probably already seen it, like if you've seen a few clips of mine, he has very high combo damage. Like if I try to go for a high damage electric route here, this should be about 101 damage without counter hit. And having high combo damage means that you can kill very early on. Sometimes my game plan with Devil Jin just revolved around, you know, chipping them down with my other lows until they're at like 50% HP. And then just trying to look for one launch and killing them with heat. That was pretty much my game plan a lot of the times with Devil Jin. And you know, his biggest strength is obviously his edge. He looks so cool in this game. But in this game, Devil Jin, for the first time ever, has some of the biggest weaknesses I've ever seen on this character. Not even Season 4 Devil Jin post-nerfs, or like Season 3 Devil Jin after this up 4 got nerfed. Not even that was this essential for him, like these weaknesses. What they changed about Tekken 8 Devil Jin is that his generics are super bad now. Let me close count the hit for now. His generic down 4 first off, which was one of my favorite lows to use by far, in combination with down 3 for example. And that only does 6 damage now, is -4 on hit and -15 on block. That is a very detrimental nerf for a character like Devil Jin that strived off his generics back in Tekken 7 and, you know, older Tekken games. Then they also changed his down forward 1. It's only +5 on hit now, recovers 3 frames less on more on whiff, and is -6 on block now. And this move has way less tracking than his old down forward 1, or rather the sidestepping in this game is better, which means that his down forward 1 is more easily steppable. So checking people with Devil Jin is much harder now. You can still use down forward 1 and down forward 4 to check people, but you will be -6 or -9 respectively, and that is pretty annoying for Devil Jin, I can't lie. Sure, you have down forward 1 too as a follow-up, but that is still a duckable high, and I think down forward 1 2 strives the most at the wall, not in the open. So in the open you just have to deal with the -6 situation. His down forward 1 being bad doesn't mean you shouldn't be checking with it. You still have to use it. You are forced to use it actually. You still have to check a lot with down forward 1, but his down forward 1 is just so much worse now. And I've also had a situation where Devil Jin's up 4 evaded this down forward 1, and I never had that happen on his old down forward 1. So yeah, his down forward 1 is pretty weak now. And another big nerf, the biggest nerf in my opinion, his jab does less damage now and has less range. I kinda tested around with this. I think in Tekken 7 his jab has around 2.1 range, if I'm not mistaken. In this game it's even less. And I've had this with so much trying to punish, for example, Wind God Fist or other -10 moves that have slight pushback. And yeah, his jabs are way worse now. And that is very detrimental for Devil Jin. Like, again, for a character that had somewhat anything of everything, he really has a huge weakness now in his generics. And something else that matters a lot in this game is that his range 0 is in general is just bad, but the tracking on some of his moves also got nerfed. Like, or rather, movement is better in this game in general, so some moves that weren't steppable before are easily steppable now. Check this. His back forward 2 that was considered pseudo homing before can be sidewalked to the right now if you're up close. And all this, like, my verdict on Devil Jin is, at least for his game plan, you do not want to be up close against your opponent. Devil Jin gets bullied a lot up close now. You need to get away as much as possible, and Devil Jin strives on range 1 to range 2. You know, you have a great whip punish in electric, and back to 3 now, and even this. And you have strong space control, as I mentioned before, with this and this. But you don't want to be up close ever. This is very easily steppable up close. This is very easily steppable, or like duckable even up close. You need to use your moves in combination from range 2 in order to make them work. And again, what this means is that you don't want to be on range 0 ever with Devil Jin. Or like, you know, you're forced to be on range 0 sometimes, but don't try to brawl up close too much with this character. That's my verdict on him. And also, high combo damage also means a lot of recoverable health. So like, if you opt to use your heat early for like high damage combos, you will come to regret it pretty soon, because if the opponent gets one heat engager going, you will be at a huge disadvantage. So I don't think using heat for combos is ever worth it, unless you can kill with it. So Devil Jin's heat pretty much is just a means of killing the opponent, not to get momentum going, in my opinion. Another use I found for his heat is to steal momentum by using the heat burst, and then trying to chip him away with either this or using the heat smash. But again, Devil Jin is a very strong space control character now. I would not recommend going up close against the opponent with him. If you do, be prepared to show the best part of your defense, because otherwise you will get bullied to death. Another reason why I think that having his generics nerfed is such a huge detrimental nerf is because in a game like Tekken 8, I think checking your opponent is super important. You need to be able to check your opponent, in fact, because otherwise they will have a very easy time getting their momentum going, and you want to avoid that in Tekken 8 as much as possible. That's why I've still been using down 4 from time to time, to just steal away my opponent's momentum, for example, and then trying to get away as soon as possible. But having a bad down forward one in this game means you will also have a much harder time checking your opponent. Or like they will have a very easy time building up momentum after blocking your down forward one. And that's why I think having bad generics in this game is it is a huge weakness. Don't get me wrong, I still think Devil Jin is very, very strong. I'm just trying to explain why he's very different from previous games here. Devil Jin is a completely different character now. So what changed basically is that you need a knockdown to get momentum going. And you know, I explained the Morning Crow Oki situations in another video again. You can get your momentum going, but in different ways now. You don't get it going by hitting a down forward one and being +8, for example. That's not the case anymore. You really, really need a knockdown somehow, and then you need to get your momentum going either with Morning Crow or, you know, straight up mixing them. But in these situations, Devil Jin is easily one of the strongest characters. I also think that new additions like CD1+2 or ISN3 are not the most useful in like the neutral. CD1+2 is a very slow move, for example, and ISN3 is unsafe on block and has very little tracking, so I don't think these moves are necessarily very strong when used in a neutral or in certain situations. But there is a way to implement everything. ISN3, for example, is very useful in combos, and CD1+2 I've seen being used in heat because you can, you know, just get out the laser even after whiffing, and I've seen some people run into this. Like, anything he has now, even if it may not seem useful at first, everything has its use. And that's why I think Devil Jin is super, super difficult to play in this game, because you need to find a way to implement everything. He has so much stuff to work with now, so much more than in Tekken 7. So trying to find a way to implement everything he has now, especially when you're playing a ranked or tournament versus 2, is super, super difficult in my opinion. So my final verdict on Devil Jin in Tekken 8 is that he's easily S tier, but bringing out that potential in him is super difficult, even more so than in older games. Some people may say that, okay, yeah, he has more cheese now, so he's easier, but I don't think that's the case at all, because he, in my opinion, is the top tier that is the most solvable. He does not have the run-of-the-mill mid-homing moves that are safe on block and give a counted knockdown or whatever. That's not the case anymore. Like, this is the closest he has to a mid-homing move that, you know, does everything for him. And that is steppable now. And I also think that upward 1 and 444 and all the new moves he got, they are all super solvable. Like, the strongest move he has to, you know, stop you from trying to counter play is Wise-Standing 2, as usual. And even though they buffed Wise-Standing 2's damage, theoretically, I don't think that's enough to, you know, say he can just bring out his game plan effortlessly. I think Devil Jin is the top tier that has the hardest time implementing his game plan. He is S tier, for sure. I think he's among the top 5 easily. But again, he is a lot of effort to make work. And you need to know what you want from a character. Devil Jin is a character that that will reward you the more effort you put into him. Obviously, that's any character, but even more so with Devil Jin. Trust me, this character has so much to offer if you learn to implement those things. But if you're looking for a character that you want to win with, especially in ranked, or, you know, climb up the ranks with, I don't think Devil Jin is the go-to. This character in the first 2, in my opinion, is more difficult to play than in older games. Because as I stated, there's so much you have to be able to work with. Then you also have to worry about your opponent's character, and some of them in this game are very easy to build up momentum with, and, you know, their game plans are super easy to implement, which is not the case for Devil Jin. So usually you find yourself trying to defend against those characters, and, you know, having good defense, especially in Tekken 8, is super difficult. Playing against a character in heat sometimes feels super unsolvable, and Devil Jin finds himself in these situations a lot. And another issue is that they also nerfed his panic moves. Up 4 no longer goes into fly from block, and back 1+3 is now a 4-frame power crush instead of a 3-frame power crush. And all of that matters, trust me, all of that matters. Your panic moves are not as strong anymore. Even using down 4 as a panic move brings a lot of risk with it. So, you know, you need to have very, very good defense with Devil Jin, and defense is way harder to train than offense. So again, my final verdict is S tier, but he's the most solvable top tier in this game. Thanks for listening.